The spread of humanity. Long ago, in the days after the very first people were made, the world was still young. The earth was filled with wide open spaces, green fields, tall trees, gentle rivers, and quiet hills that stretched across the land. It was a place waiting to be filled with the footsteps of many. The first two were called Adam and Eve. They lived in a beautiful garden, where everything grew just as it should. The garden was peaceful and full of life. Birds sang softly, and all the animals were friends. But life was not meant to stay just there, in one place. As time passed, Adam and Eve had children. Their sons and daughters grew up, learned to walk and talk, and learned about the world around them. Their family began to grow. The story of their descendants is like the spreading of seeds, carried gently by the wind, planting new beginnings far and wide. One of their sons was Cain, and another was Abel. From the earliest days, people had to learn about choices and feelings, hope and sadness. As families grew larger, they moved beyond the place where they first lived. Sometimes the Bible tells us this very clearly, and other times it leaves things a little quiet, with gentle hints that invite us to imagine. It is certain that people began to fill the earth, traveling across hills and valleys, into new places where the sky stretched wide and the earth touched the clouds. These early families built simple homes, made tools from stone and wood, and learned to work the land. Some found rivers where they could fish, while others began to tend sheep and cattle. The world was wide and full of wonders, and they explored it with careful steps. The story reminds us softly of a man named Noah, who lived many years after Adam and Eve's children had grown. Noah's story is like a calm river that flows through this tale, a man who walked gently with his family through both calm and stormy times. But even before him, the families had already spread across lands unknown. After the stories of Noah and the great flood that cleansed the earth, the Bible tells us that the people began once again to fill the land. They built cities, tall and proud, reaching toward the sky like the branches of a tree. One such city was called Babel. Babel was a place where many people spoke the same language. They dreamed of building a tower so high it could touch the heavens. But the story tells us that this dream was changed, gently and softly, as God gave the people many different languages. This spreading of languages led people to drift apart from Babel. Like leaves falling gently from a tree in autumn, they moved in all directions, carrying their stories, dreams, and hopes with them. This is how the world's many languages and cultures began, each unique and beautiful. It is a story of movement, of families walking slowly, finding new homes. Some traveled toward shining deserts, others to fertile riverbanks. Some wandered to quiet forests where the tall trees whispered to the sky. Along the way they learned many things. They learned to grow grain, to weave cloth, and to make music that echoed softly in the night. They shared stories by the fire, stories of their ancestors, the earth, and the skies above. One line of families, we are told, settled in a fertile plain called Shinar, where they built cities and lived together. From there, others went to lands we now call Assyria and beyond. The Bible often speaks simply about these movements, like gentle waves spreading across a calm sea. The journey of humanity is a journey into a larger world. It is a story told in whispers of footsteps on soft grass, in the quiet turning of pages in ancient scrolls, and in the gentle calling of names that have passed through countless times. We are reminded that behind every name in these ancient stories is a family, a home, a whispered prayer, and a hopeful heart. And so the people spread, slowly, carefully, as though planting a vast garden filled with many kinds of flowers and trees. Beyond the spread of people, the Bible shares generations, names and lives passing down through the years, each generation a thread in the vast tapestry of human experience. We see the long line from Adam onward, with their children and grandchildren, keeping the story going. Sometimes the Bible tells us very little about certain people or places. These quiet moments invite us to imagine the peaceful days and simple lives lived in gentle harmony with the earth. For example, there is mention of men and women who lived many years, their days full of children, work, and rest. They saw the sun rise and set, felt the cool breeze of evening, and watched the stars dance slowly in the night sky. We know that as people moved, their families grew. They learned to build villages and towns, places where many could come together to share food, stories, and laughter. Throughout all these quiet wanderings and mild adventures, there is a deep sense of the earth itself, alive and steady, holding the weight of footsteps and stories gently upon its soft soil. The great river valleys became centers where life bloomed, places with water, food, and shelter. People gathered there to live and work and dream. They grew crops and raised animals, using the gifts of the earth to sustain their growing families. Wherever they went, they carried with them memories of the garden, the perfect place from long ago, and stories of the first beginnings. They passed these memories from parent to child, slowly building a bridge between what was and what would be. And so the story goes on, gentle and slow, a spreading of humanity that touches every corner of the earth. From the earliest days in the garden to the far edges of the land, the journey continues softly, quietly, like a lullaby sung to the sleeping world. This is where our tale pauses for now, a moment of rest in the peaceful unfolding of a story that is still being told. The spreading of humanity is a gentle song, sung sweetly in the quiet night, reminding us of beginnings, journeys, and places yet to be found. In these early days, as people walked into new lands, the earth seemed vast and mysterious. Each sunrise brought a promise. Unknown paths beckoned under wide blue skies. The soft winds carried stories from distant places, and the rustling leaves whispered secrets older than memory. Families that had once lived close now found themselves under different stars and beside unfamiliar rivers. Some wandered slowly, carrying only their essentials, a small bundle of grain for planting, a handful of seeds saved from last harvest, a carved wooden flute for quiet moments. Others made room in their hearts for the wild world, learning its quiet rhythms without the need to tame every inch of it. In these scattered settlements, children's laughter was the soft music of new beginnings. They chased each other through fields of waving grass and danced beneath the branches of ancient trees. Elders sat on smooth stones, their eyes shining with the light of countless seasons, sharing stories of old, of gardens that shimmered with life, of towering cities touched by dreams, and of rivers that ran like silver threads through the lands. The songs they sang carried hopes and histories. Simple melodies rose and fell, like the gentle rise and fall of the earth itself. These songs spoke of sun and rain, of harvests rich and times of scarcity. They told of journeys undertaken, of courage found in unfamiliar places, and of the deep bond between people and the soil beneath their feet. Trade routes began to form, subtle at first like the delicate traces of a stream. With them came new ideas alongside goods, shapes crafted from clay, soft cloths woven with care, and tales stitched into fabric as surely as patterns embroidered by nimble fingers. Even from afar, voices would call in different tongues, inviting mutual understanding and exchange. As people settled into the rolling hills and fertile valleys, their hands learned the secrets of the earth. The humble seed, planted with hope, grew into golden grain, whose stalks swayed like a sea kissed by gentle breezes. Gardens blossomed with fruits and vegetables, tended with devotion. Branches were grafted carefully, combining the strength of one tree with the fruitfulness of another. In the shadow of mighty rivers, communities grew stronger. The waters not only quenched thirst and nourished crops, but became highways connecting distant places. Boats carved from great trees glided silently along the currents, their sails catching the breeze like the wings of great birds in flight. Fishermen cast their nets in the early morning mist, bringing fresh abundance to the shared tables of their villages. The connection between people and the earth deepened, guiding their lives like a steady hand. The cycles of sun and moon marked seasons and celebrations. When the soil was heavy with promise, everyone gathered to plant together. When golden ears ripened, feasts were prepared, and gratitude filled the air with warmth. In the forests, hunters moved with gentle reverence, mindful of the balance between taking and giving. They spoke quietly to the dawn, thanking the animals for their lives. The art of tracking was passed along, stories woven into the fabric of the land itself. Every leaf, every footprint was a message to those who knew how to listen. The weaving of cloth became an expression of identity and creativity. Threads dyed with colors from flowers and earth were woven into patterns that told of heritage and hopes. Cloaks, tunics, and blankets wrapped bodies and spirits alike in comfort. The weaver's fingers moved rhythmically, as if singing a silent lullaby through their craft. Music filled the air, gentle as a feather's fall. Drums echoed the heartbeat of the community, and wind instruments mimicked bird calls that mingled with the sound of rustling leaves. Songs were sung at morning gatherings and evening fires, uniting hearts separated by long distances. The passing of knowledge across generations was a sacred trust. Mothers and fathers, elders and storytellers, shaped the young with lessons learned from each sunrise and each storm. They taught the language of caring for the earth and each other, how patience watereth the seed, how words spoken with kindness root deeply, how the courage to venture forth kindles the spirit. In time, some settlements grew into villages, their homes clustered close like stones in a stream. Markets blossomed with simple goods, pottery marked with gentle designs, woven baskets sturdy and true, hand-carved tools shaped for both work and art. Here, laughter rang out clearer, and friendships reached across differences, weaving unity from diversity. At the heart of each village stood a place of gathering where stories were shared beneath the wide sky. Elders recounted journeys and dreams. Young ones listened with bright eyes, their imaginations painting pictures of distant places and times long gone. Here, the past met the present in the warmth of shared voices. As people moved further, climbing hills and crossing plains, they met others whose languages had shifted with the winds. Though words sounded different, the smiles and gestures spoke a common language of welcome and respect. New friendships were forged, and with them new customs blended like gentle rivers joining in peaceful confluence. Each family carried in their hearts the memory of an original garden, a place of innocence and harmony whispered beside every hearth. This memory was a quiet thread running unbroken through the tapestry of time, reminding all who heard it of the beginning, of beauty untouched by discord, of a world where people walked hand in hand with the earth. Great river valleys thrived with life, their mud soft and rich, promising abundance to those who tilled their banks. Here, the planting and harvesting of crops became a sacred rhythm, a dance honoring the cooperation between human hands and earth's bounty. The sun rose and set on fields of waving grain and orchards heavy with fruit, each day's work an act of gratitude. By the banks of the Euphrates, near where soft waters met the cypresses, families planted seeds of knowledge alongside seeds of grain. They crafted tools from stone and metal, shaping the future with hands steady and minds open. Craftsmen and artisans honed their arts, fashioning objects both practical and beautiful, honoring the earth and the heavens alike. Stories traveled far and wide, like birds carried on high winds, tales of creation and hope, of the first cities and the tower that sought the heavens, shaped cultures and spirits. They inspired songs and dances, poems and prayers, a gentle thread weaving humanity closer, even as it scattered across the continents. Amidst all this movement, some hearts longed for rootedness, for a place to call home beyond the journey. They built houses of sun-baked bricks, their walls thick and warm against night's chill. Courtyards bloomed with trees and flowers, places for quiet reflection and shared meals. Gardens flourished in small pockets, tended with love and patience. Communities found strength in festivals marking the cycles of nature. Gatherings under starlit skies were times of joy and renewal. People danced around fires, their shadows flickering like ancient spirits come to bless the earth. Songs carried into the night, weaving peace and hope into the darkness. Language continued to evolve, a living river of sound and meaning. Although many tongues blossomed from the original seed, they shared roots. Words for water and light, earth and sky, words for family and friendship, laughter and tears. In these common sounds lived the echo of the first shared voice, gentle and enduring. Sometimes travelers would pause on their paths to plant a new seed, both in the earth and in the hearts of mortals. Here new villages grew and with them new stories. The tapestry of humanity stretched wider with each thread, vibrant with difference yet bound by the quiet hum of shared existence. The world's face changed with each season, deserts shimmering with heat and mystery, forests dense and dappled with sunlight, mountains standing tall and silent watchmen over the land below. People learned to listen to the wild, its calls and silences, its gifts and warnings. In time, respect grew alongside curiosity and courage. Through it all, the memory of first days, the garden, the tower, the wind of many tongues, remained a tender root beneath the surface. It was a reminder that even as people spread like leaves on the wind, they carried a shared light within. And so, the story continues, quiet and careful, like the soft fall of new snow or the gentle unfolding of dawn. It is the story of all who have walked this land, those who have come before and those yet to come, the endless unfolding journey of humanity, ever moving, ever-growing, ever-weaving life into being. From the vast river valleys, the ripple of humanity's spirit reached into the cradles of mountains and the quiet plains beyond. Here, beneath vast open skies, people began listening anew, to the whispering winds, to the rhythm of seasons, and to the soft murmur of the earth itself. Each step taken upon the land became a dance with the ancient pulse of the planet, inviting humanity to grow not above or over, but alongside all living things. Where sunlight filtered softly through the leaves like golden promises, families learned the language of patience. They watched the slow unfurling of ferns, the gentle climb of vines, and the delicate blooms that opened with silent grace. Here, life taught them that strength was not only in bold action, but in quiet endurance and tender care. Villages settled near these woodlands found sweetness in shared stories told around flickering fires. These tales, born from the heartbeats of the earth and sky, wove lessons of humility and wonder. The elders' voices, calm and steady, carried memories of first travelers whose footsteps had left gentle imprints on the soil. Through these stories, a sacred thread connected past and present, weaving a safety net of belonging that sheltered every listener. Across the open grasslands, where the horizon stretched wide and the sky seemed infinite, the rhythm of hoofbeats became a new song. People watched herds moving with grace, learning the art of careful tracking and quiet presence. The land here taught generosity, the patience to wait for rains that nourished grasses, and the wisdom to share space with the creatures who called the land home. This endless dance of give and take became a silent pact between humans and the wild. In these vast places, the night sky was a constant canvas of shimmering lights, a guide and a storyteller. Early stargazers found patterns in the constellations, weaving them into myths and calendars, gentle markers of time's passing. Each star was a spark, reminding humanity of a shared origin light years away, yet intimately felt under every darkened roof and open meadow. As waves crashed along distant coasts, shorelines became new frontiers of discovery. Salt air and the songs of seabirds welcomed those who listened with open hearts. People learned to read the tides and currents, learning lessons of patience and timing from the vast ocean's constant ebb and flow. The sea offered fish, shells, and salty wisdom, inspiring tools crafted with newfound skill and care. In these coastal homes, community life blossomed with rhythms attuned to the water. Morning light brought the promise of bounties caught from the depths, and evenings unfolded with shared meals and songs that echoed the ocean's own melodies. Here, connection deepened, not only among humans, but with the mysterious creatures of the deep, the silent watchers beneath the waves. Trade routes began to weave their invisible threads, linking mountain, forest, plain, and shore. Goods exchanged hands, clay pots, woven fabrics, carved stones, each item carrying stories, techniques, and dreams across vast distances. These movements of material culture sparked curiosity and respect, inviting understanding beyond immediate borders. As the web of connections grew, so did the language of exchange, not always through words, but through gestures, expressions, and shared experiences. The heart became the first translator, softening differences and nurturing trust. In this gentle giving and receiving, a unifying pulse beat stronger, lighting a path toward mutual respect and deeper understanding. Even as differences became more visible, in dress, in speech, in ritual, the core of shared humanity anchored all. People returned often to memories of that original garden, a symbol held quietly within, reminding them that beneath these varied forms and voices lay a common soil rich with possibility and peace. Amidst these growing communities, a tender awareness blossomed, the realization that the earth was not merely a resource to be claimed, but a partner to be honored. Sacred groves, clear springs, and ancient stones became places of reflection and gratitude. Here, rituals returned to simpler elements, a handful of soil, a breath of wind, a drop of rain. Children learned to listen from their earliest days, not only to human voices, but to the quiet voices of the land. Their laughter mingled with bird songs, and their footsteps traced patterns familiar to the wild animals who peered curiously from brush and bough. In their play, the future was quietly nurtured, a future blooming with hope and rooted in respect. Communities celebrated this ongoing communion with nature through seasons of festivals that mirrored those of old. With drums and flutes, with spinning dancers twirling under the vast dome of sky, they marked moments of sowing, growth, harvest, rest, and renewal. These celebrations were gentle embraces, not only of abundance, but of the cycles of loss and renewal that bound all life. The weaving of stories continued to be a lifeline, connecting generations, holding histories, and nurturing wisdom. Each teller shaped words with care, keeping alive the delicate balance between past and future. Through these narratives, the essence of the human spirit shimmered, curious, compassionate, and ever-reaching. In the evenings, as fires crackled beneath the protective watch of stars, people practiced stillness, allowing quiet to fill their hearts. They understood that in the hush between sounds, in the space where breath slows and thoughts mellow, a deeper knowing could arise. This was a reverence spoken without words, a tenderness that embraced all beings without exception. Over time, this embrace expanded beyond individual villages and regions. Ideas of cooperation began to seed themselves in the hearts of distant groups, who shared with one another not only goods, but hopes and dreams. The knowledge that survival and flourishing required connection grew steadily, a soft revolution of empathy and shared responsibility. One quiet truth resounded beneath all else, that despite the allure of conquest or division, life's strongest foundation was kindness. It was kindness that bridged differences, that soothed old wounds, that nurtured delicate shoots of peace amid the wild grasses of change. Through seasons and centuries, as people shaped the land and were shaped by it, a gentle harmony was born, a trust placed in both earth and neighbor. This trust became the light that guided footsteps on new paths, the song tarried on wandering winds, the seed resting quietly in the fertile soil of tomorrow. And so the story of humanity unfolded, like leaves turned by a steady breeze, like rivers converging toward the vast embrace of the sea. It was a story not of endings, but of endless beginnings, each chapter a quiet promise whispered across hills, forests, rivers, and oceans. In the stillness of the evening, as stars embroidered the sky with silent light, the memory of that original garden remained, a beacon of innocence, harmony, and the tender connection between all things. It was a gentle reminder, soft as the breath of dawn, inviting every heart to remember. No matter how far and wide we roam, we are forever rooted in the shared earth beneath our feet, held by the enduring light of common beginnings. The planting of a single seed became an act of shared intention, a small yet profound ritual where hands met soil with care and hope. In these moments, the earth's quiet generosity was acknowledged, how the seed's potential depended not on one, but on many. The sun, the rain, the microbes unseen beneath the surface, and the gentle hands that tended the sprout. This simple truth deepened the collective understanding that life is a dance of reciprocity, a balance held with gentle steadiness rather than grasping. As seasons turned and often turned again, villages found themselves linked not only by trade, but by ceremonies marked with gratitude. Harvest festivals brought entire regions together. People from far fields shared grains and stories beneath the shelter of great trees. Their voices wove into a tapestry of sound, laughter, song, prayer, resonating with a kinship that needed no language beyond feeling. These gatherings, elegant and unassuming, held the essence of what it meant to be human, to arrive, to see one another truly, and to celebrate presence. Over time, bridges of understanding reached beyond horizon lines. Rivers, once mere boundaries, became pathways for exchange, of ideas, of food, of friendship. Travelers who had once journeyed cautiously found themselves embraced with open arms, and their tales of distant places became threads in the expansive fabric of shared life. In these exchanges, the heart's role as translator softened barriers worn hard by history. Curiosity overtook fear, and new dialects of kindness were spoken without words. The rhythms of the natural world became the quiet teachers for those who would listen. Dawn's soft light, the restless murmur of wind through leaves, the gentle patter of rain, all invited a mindful presence. Children learned not only from elders but from stones and streams, recognizing in patterns the wisdom of time itself. Nightly rituals were simple, kind hands passing water, soft songs hummed to accompany the stars' slow march. Such practices grounded the restless soul, and connected all beings across changing moments. In these times, old fears began to lessen. The concept of enemy dissolved as empathy expanded. Where once suspicion blocked paths, now shared work and song paved the way forward. The soil turned beneath many feet, not to conquer, but to nurture, to plant new beginnings that would one day shade future generations. This gentle revolution was not carved in stone, but sown softly through daily acts, offering shelter to a stranger, tending a neighbor's child, listening fully when words faltered. The children, growing up with nature as their guide, carried this legacy as a sacred trust. Their laughter mingled with the rustling of grasses. Their eyes held the openness of dawn. They understood that power arose from connection, not control, that wisdom was neighbor to humility. As they gathered for seasonal dances, their bodies moved with the earth's pulse, a living prayer of belonging and renewal. Each step was a vow to remember origin, to honor the web of life invisible yet undeniable. Storytellers whose voices curved like flowing streams reminded all who would listen that history is alive, not fixed but breathing. They wove lessons of the past with hopes for the future, their words a balm to weary hearts. In circles bathed by firelight, the ancient garden was spoken of not as a place lost, but as a promise within reach, a dream attainable through the everyday kindnesses that stitch communities whole. Memory and imagination journeyed hand in hand, creating a rich soil from which continued growth was assured. Night's embrace nurtured a deep silence, a shared reverence that required no words. In the stillness between dusk and dawn, hearts spoke in rhythms unspoken, the soft rise and fall of breath, the warmth of presence beside one another. This wordless communion was the quiet foundation upon which the vast mosaic of human experience was built. Here, all differences softened and evened into the simple truth of being alive together beneath vast skies. With each passing generation, an awareness blossomed that the earth was not merely backdrop, but active partner. Mountains, rivers, forests, not resources to be drained, were friends and ancestors, holding their own stories and wisdom. Sacred groves and clear springs became sanctuaries, where respect was practiced in silence and ritual. Offerings were made not to command but to honor. The invisible contracts of reciprocity, renewed time and again beneath green canopies. Communities discovered new rhythms of cooperation that transcended borders. They formed councils where voices, young and old, human and more than human, were heard with equal respect. Decisions rippled outward with care, mindful of consequences yet unseen. This way of living nurtured resilience. Hardships came, as they always do, but were met with shared strength and unshaken faith in the bonds woven through years of mutual support. Where conflict once sowed division, now kindness was crowding in, gentle and insistent, a quiet force slow but steady. Wounds were tended with compassion, and broken trust was rebuilt with patience. Forgiveness became a daily offering, a balm and a bridge. In this world, peace was not merely absence of strife, but presence of warmth, a living thing cultivated in each interaction, in every moment of listening and acceptance. Humanity's story, thus, unfurled not in grand upheavals, but in countless humble awakenings. Each day offered a new chapter, a continuous beginning that invited all to step forward with open hands and heart. The path was never perfect, but it was always clear, rooted in shared earth, nourished by enduring harmony, its light a gentle guide toward tomorrow's promise. And so, beneath sun-dappled leaves and beneath star-studded skies, the story whispered onward, an unending song carried on the breath of wind, in the pulse of rivers, and in the beating of countless hearts, forever reaching toward kinship, balance, and the infinite grace of life itself. In this shared existence, the morning light arrived like a tender invitation. Dew-dappled leaves and glistening petals opened gracefully, and so too did the hearts of the people, widening to welcome the new day as a gift. Each dawn was neither hurried nor burdened by expectations, but embraced with quiet reverence. The air carried a delicate warmth, cradling the stillness that preceded the world's gentle stirring. It was in this pause, this soft breath held collectively, that the pulse of life could be felt most keenly. The children, with their eyes brimming with wonder, roamed the meadows and woodlands as if walking between worlds. They listened deeply to the murmur of streams, to the rustling whispers of grasses, to the chorus of insects and birds. Their small hands traced the contours of bark and stone, grounding them in the enduring presence of the earth. Curiosity was not hurried but savored, an unfolding dance of discovery, defined by patience and care. Every question they asked became a seed, planted into the fertile soil of wonder, destined to bloom into knowledge tempered by humility. Around communal fire circles, voices rose in gentle harmony, weaving stories with melodies as tender as the night's embrace. These were not tales that sought to conquer the imagination with grandiosity, but rather threads connecting one soul to another, one moment to the next. The past and future wove seamlessly through this tapestry, each story a quiet remembrance of lessons learned and hopes nurtured. Listening closely, one could hear the subtle shifts in tone, the pauses that spoke volumes, as if every storyteller and listener were part of a delicate conversation with time itself. The earth beneath their feet was no longer just a foundation, but a living entity, breathing, feeling, waiting to be heard. People knelt in gratitude before turning soil, offering thanks to roots that reached downward like ancient fingers caressing the deep. Water was welcomed as a sacred visitor, its journey from cloud to river to ocean honored as a vital cycle of renewal rather than a resource to be dominated. Wind carried whispered prayers and laughter, moving unseen but deeply felt, reminding all that true power lies in connection, not control. Every decision made was the result of councils where complexity was embraced rather than avoided. Voices of elders, youth, animals, and even the trees were welcomed into the circle. No singular decree reigned, rather consensus blossomed slowly like a flower opening toward the sun. This deliberation acknowledged that every choice rippled outward, affecting not only those present, but generations unseen and futures intangible. Listening became an act of profound respect, an audition for the voice of life itself. Conflict had become a rarity, its place filled instead with gestures of healing. When misunderstanding arose, it was met with kindness, with silence taken to understand before words were spoken. Forgiveness was not a transaction but a shared breath, a mutual unlacing of wounds that bound rather than severed. Through this, trust was restored continually, strand by strand, creating a fabric too resilient to tear. Peace was not an abstract goal but a tangible warmth flowing between people, a hearth fire shared on long winter evenings and in brief, cherished moments alike. Progress was no longer measured in monuments of stone or machines humming with relentless force, but in awakenings, soft, slow, steady. Each day brought new insights, gentle revelations, that deepened the communion with life. It was a path without destination, marked instead by footsteps attuned to the rhythm of growth and change. Humility guided these steps, teaching that every peak reached revealed yet another good reason to pause and look around with grateful eyes. And so the journey carried on, fluid, imperfect, ever evolving, like a river seeking the sea, but savoring each curve and pool along the way. Within this unfolding story, there was no final chapter, no neatly tied conclusion. Instead, there was an endless song, layered with voices old and new, a melody of kinship and balance that embraced all life with gentle certainty. As twilight softened the edges of the day, people gathered once more, their presence a quiet testament to shared purpose. In the glow of starlight that spilled softly across the sky, hearts beat in unison, not as separate vessels, but as parts of a whole, unified by respect and the sacred ties that bind. Here, beneath the vast canopy of existence, every breath was a prayer, every sigh a blessing, every eye reflecting the profound beauty of a world held in loving embrace. And within this enduring harmony, the story of humanity continued, an ever-quiet song, ever strong, woven with the threads of kindness, connection, and hope. As dawn slips quietly over the horizon, the community stirs with tender intention. There is no rush, only the gentle unfolding of a new day's embrace. Each person moves with a mindful grace, aware of the preciousness of these early hours. The light stretches softly across the land, touching leaves, stones, and skin with a quiet promise. In the stillness, the soil beneath bare feet reminds each soul of their deep roots. Hands meet earth with reverence, fingers tracing ancient patterns that speak of origin and belonging. There is a sacredness in this contact, a conversation without words that honors the pulse of life itself. Even the hum of insects and the whisper of the wind become a language, inviting all to listen with open hearts. Today, as always, learning flows gently from the earth's teachings. Children sit close to elders, absorbing stories that trace the currents of time. These are not tales of conquest or dominion, but of harmony, of resilience, and of the web of relationships that hold everything in balance. The cadence is slow and deliberate, like the tide holding back before it returns, filled with purpose and belonging. Gathering near a flowing creek, the community's voices rise in soft unison. Songs and chants honor the water's journey, mountain to sea, memory to hope. Each note carries the vibrancy of life, a thread weaving together individual threads into a tapestry of shared existence. The melodies cradle each listener, inviting reflection and renewal. In this space, the sacredness of fluidity, of adaptation, change, and persistence is clear. As the sun rises higher, small hands work alongside older ones in shared tasks. Together, they tend gardens rooted in ancient wisdom and modern care. The act of planting is a prayer, a promise to nurture what will feed and heal for generations. Patience is the companion here. Growth is never hurried. Every sprout and leaf becomes a testament to the trust placed in cycles beyond immediate sight. Throughout this rhythm of the day, moments of silence punctuate the flow. These are breaths offered to the whole, a community, an earth, a cosmos. In silence, the mind softens, and listening deepens. It is in these tender interludes that the invisible threads reveal themselves, the gentle pulse connecting all life, the steady hum of existence persevering through change. Evening arrives wrapped in rose and violet hues, and the community draws near the fire once again. But tonight's gathering is quieter, contemplative. The flames flicker softly, reflecting stories of journeys yet to be taken and of paths well traveled. Each face illuminated by the glow holds the calm of one who knows there is no need to rush toward knowing, no race to finish the wisdom woven through time. Words are chosen with care, each phrase carrying the weight of respect and curiosity. The council speaks of balance, between giving and receiving, voice and silence, self and other. Questions rise gently, inviting not answers but deeper questions. This is the art of living in wonder, embracing the unknown as a companion rather than a fear. In these moments, gratitude flows like a stream, steady and sincere. Thanks is offered not only for abundance, but for challenge, for the ways they shape humility and understanding. To be part of this unfolding story is seen as a profound gift, a chance to walk lightly upon the earth while leaving footprints of kindness. When the stars emerge, their quiet brilliance mirrors the light found within the community. They remind all of the vastness embraced with a tender heart. The night sky becomes a canvas for dreams whispered in trust and hope. Under this shared expanse, peace settles deep, weaving through marrow and thought alike. Life in all its subtle complexity is celebrated not as a destination reached, but as a dance ongoing. Every gesture, every breath is part of a sacred melody, the song that binds the hearts of many into one. Each day offers a fresh stanza, each moment an opportunity to harmonize with the living earth and one another. And so, with quiet joy and humility, the spread of humanity continues, not as a force to conquer, but as a presence to nurture, not as a blaze that consumes, but as a flame that warms and invites. The story moves forward softly, carried on winds of care, through rhythms of renewal, ever embracing the deep sacredness of simply being. In the quiet that follows the sharing of gratitude, a gentle breeze moves through the canopy, soft and deliberate, as if ushering in a new thought. The community feels it, not as an impersonal force, but as a breath, an extension of the earth speaking to them in whispered tones. This moment unfolds slowly, inviting each heart to open and listen more deeply. They understand that to spread is not simply to grow outward, but to extend with purpose and reverence. Humanity's path curls like the river's bend, mindful of the contours of existence, flowing in harmony with land and life, rather than jarring against it. Their feet touch the soil with intention, each step a vow to honor the place they traverse and the journeys already made there. From the elders' stories, they remember how the earliest footsteps were not hurried or reckless but deliberate, sustained by a deep awareness of connection, the pulse of earth beneath their soles, the sky arching protectively overhead. To spread meant to share warmth and shelter, stories and songs, to carry seeds of understanding carried by wind and hand alike. Among the children, laughter and curiosity intertwine as they explore not only the physical spaces around them, but the unseen threads weaving the world together. Each small discovery, an insect's delicate flight, the growth of a particular root, the subtle shifts of the sky at dusk, becomes a lesson whispered to heart and mind. Their questions are held tenderly, not hurriedly answered but met with encouragement to continue seeking. The elders watch, their eyes soft but luminous, recognizing that this interplay of wonder and trust is the soil from which deeper knowing springs. They impart the wisdom of humility embedded in every step, the understanding that humans are but one note in a vast chorus, one breath in the collective rhythm of life. To spread, they remind the young ones, is to listen as much as to act, to feel as much as to see. In the shared garden, hands tend the earth with patience. Each seed pressed into the soil carries a promise whispered into the cool darkness. The act of planting is more than cultivation. It becomes a ritual of hope and quiet joy, a subtle prayer expressed through touch and presence. Waters flow gently over the roots as caretakers move among the rows, their movements steady, their breath steadying. The garden becomes a living metaphor for growth, fragile, resilient, and always unfolding. Around the evening fire, stories begin to bloom once more, carried on sparks that dance into the night sky. These stories stretch beyond memory, weaving ancient truth into present moments. They speak not of conquest or dominion, but of the sacred exchange between giving and receiving, of the cycles of renewal that bind all life. Here, in the hearth's warm glow, the community embraces the mystery of what lies beyond knowing, with grateful hearts and open minds. Silence is welcomed again, a companion woven into their gathering, as naturally as the stars sprinkled across the heavens. In this calm, they breathe in the depth of presence together, attuning to the subtle rhythms that pulse beneath the surface. The whisper of wind through leaves, the gentle murmur of the creek, the faint beating of countless hearts, connected unseen. This shared stillness deepens their sense of unity and belonging, expanding the circle of care further and further outward. Elsewhere under the expansive sky, the constellations invite contemplation. The elders teach that each star is a story, each constellation a reminder of journeys taken and lessons learned. These celestial patterns become maps, not only of direction, but of meaning, echoing the patterns of human life, its challenges and triumphs, its cycles and awakenings. The stars do not signal dominance but guidance, steady light in the vast unknown. As night deepens, the community's voices softly return in song. Their melodies rise and fall like waves, gentle and persistent, carrying the essence of countless rivers and the heartbeat of the earth itself. The songs are an offering, moments where boundaries dissolve and the many become one. Each note is lifted in humility and hope, a bridge spanning moments and generations. These gatherings teach the subtle art of balance, between speech and silence, effort and surrender, seeking and receiving. They remind one another that progress is never forced or rushed, but grows from the soil of patience and gentle care. The dance of life is not a competition, but a shared flow, an ever-evolving harmony maintained through respect and openness. In the soft glow of dawn, the community moves with quiet purpose. Daylight reveals the tender green shoots emerging from the garden, the creek's steady voice renewed, the earth's warm embrace beneath their feet. Each breath is renewed with the awareness that to spread is to invite others to join, not by imposing, but by embodying the sacred values of presence and care. Their footprints are light, their hearts full. Through the seasons, this mindful spreading continues, carried in stories, nurtured in song, made manifest in daily acts of tending and listening. Every shared meal, every embrace, every whispered word holds the potential to weave threads of connection wider, gently unfolding in the vast tapestry of life. The community recognizes that this is a never-ending melody, both ancient and always new. They are both students and teachers in the sacred art of being, with the earth, with each other, with all that is. Their journey is one of tender expansion, of roots deepening even as branches reach, of hearts widening even as they settle. In this gentle unfolding, humanity's spread becomes a poetic dance of belonging rather than displacement, a flow of light rather than shadow. Each moment is an invitation to renew the dance, to refresh the song, to honor the sacredness of each breath, each shared glance. And so, under the vast, starlit sky, the community breathes deeply once more, feeling their part in the eternal rise and fall of life, knowing that their presence, their care, their shared story is itself a gift to the earth and to what is yet to come. The story of their spreading is not simply a tale of distance traveled, but a living testament to the power of gentle connection and the sacred promise held in every touch, every word, every quiet moment. Here, in the heart of all things, the dance continues, always unfolding, always inviting, always sacred. With the rhythm of the seasons guiding their steps, the community's journey unfolds like the quiet unfurling of a leaf. Each morning is received without haste, a sacred moment when the earth breathes beneath their feet, and the sky encourages their spirits to rise with it. In this gentle pace, they find an echo of the deep patience woven through the forest and the fields, a lesson whispered by roots entangled beneath the soil. Their hands, skilled and tender, touch the world carefully. When planting seeds, they imagine the stories those small beginnings will carry, tales of sun and rain, shadow and warmth, growth and rest. This mindfulness sweeps over their work, turning the act of sowing into an offering, a prayer for continued harmony. They do not rush the green shoots or demand more than the land is willing to give. Instead, they wait with respect, honoring the soil's own rhythm and knowing that each burst of life carries the gift of renewal for all. As they gather at dusk, the chorus of crickets and the soft murmur of the evening breeze cradle their conversations. Words and silences blend, like threads of different colors woven into a single fabric. In these moments, the wisdom of balance is alive. Speech that carries care and intent, silences that speak of shared understanding, and the gentle holding of space where both may be experienced fully. It is here, under the wide sky freckled with stars, that the elders continue their quiet teaching, reminders that every voice, even the softest sigh or whisper, holds sacredness in its utterance. Songs arise again, born of the night's cool embrace. They drift over the campfires, winding through the branches, traveling like seeds on the wind. These melodies do not demand, they invite. They include all who listen, older and younger, those with steady feet, and those just learning to walk the path. The songs carry the subtle power of connection, a thread tying generations together and anchoring them to the earth's enduring song. There is an understanding permeating the community that growth is never the work of force, but of gentle tending. Like the patient unfolding of a flower, transformation thrives in the space where effort is met with surrender, where intention meets acceptance. When challenges arise, they do not seek to conquer or erase difficulty, but invite them into the circle of learning, seeing struggle as soil for deeper roots to take hold. Each hardship becomes a chapter in the wider story, teaching hearts how to bend without breaking, how to rest without retreating. In the quiet hours before dawn, the horizon hums with possibility. Light leaks slowly over the land, unhurried and sure. The community steps into this awakening without grasping, simply open to the unfolding day. Breaths align with the subtle rise and fall of living things around them. This presence blossoms into acts of kindness, watering parched earth, laying stones in paths with care, sharing gathered food so none go hungry. These acts, small and consistent, become the foundation of their shared life, a fabric woven of many threads, but held together by intention and love. Their understanding of expansion is not one of conquest or erasure, but of relationship and contribution. They move through the land with reverence, aware that to belong means to give as much as to receive. They leave traces of care in soil turned gently, in stories shared under starlight, in the quiet tending of one another's spirits. Their presence touches the earth lightly, like a breath that stirs leaves but does not break them. The elders remind them often, to teach is to learn, to lead is to follow. Every gathering around the fire is a circle where knowledge flows in many directions, weaving new patterns from old, adapting to the present, while honoring the past. They listen deeply, to each other, to the animals, to the whispers of wind and water. This listening shapes their actions, guiding them toward a way of living that embraces mystery and change with equal grace. In this sacred exchange, each person becomes a guardian of stories, stories that ripple outward, illuminating paths for those who have yet to walk here. They speak of stars that have witnessed long cycles of human presence, of ancestors whose footsteps etched patterns in the earth, of futures knitted from threads of hope and care. These tales are not mere echoes, but living bridges, connecting what has been with what is and what might be. The community's story stretches forward like a slowly spinning wheel, turning through days and nights, births and deaths, growth and rest. It is a story that does not demand completion, but invites perpetual unfolding, an ongoing dance of presence and absence, light and shadow. Each moment offers a chance to step more fully into the sacredness of now, each breath a chance to witness life's tender unfolding, without hurry or fear. As the sun arcs across the sky, the people move with intention, their steps attentive to the earth's whisperings. They gather water from hidden springs, tend the young shoots pushing bravely through the soil, sing softly to the night creatures. Their lives are a series of simple, deliberate acts that ripple outward, touching unseen places, carrying blessings like seeds carried on the wind. There is no need for great proclamations or grand designs here. Instead, humility and reverence guide their way. They understand that true strength lies in gentleness, that power unfolds in patience. They recognize the sacred in the small, the quiet moments of shared breath, the smile exchanged across the firelight, the hand reached out to steady another on uneven ground. In the unfolding of this story, there is a profound trust in the cycles that govern life, trust in the resilience of the earth, and trust in the power of connection to heal and sustain. The community moves forward not as conquerors or masters, but as participants in an endless weaving, their lives threads intertwined with the fabric of the world around them. Night comes again, cool and full of stars. The songs rise softly, invitations to remember and to hope. Around the fire the circle widens, welcoming new voices, new hearts. The elders smile gently, knowing that the story is far from finished. It breathes, it lives, it flows, always open to the next breath, the next step, the next turning of the wheel. Here in the sacred space between silence and song, the community honors what has been and what will be. They carry forward the gift of presence, the offering of gentle connection, and the promise of renewal. With each shared moment, they plant the seeds of belonging, weaving a future where humanity spreads not as an invader, but as a nurturer, a keeper of the earth's quiet sacredness. And so the story continues, carried on the breath of the wind, the warmth of the fire, and the steady drumbeat of patient hearts. It is a story without end, an ever-expanding circle, inviting all who listen to join in the dance of life, a dance of belonging, light, and renewal.